You want the short version first. All right, picture. This a ripped poster on the convention floor. A security guard towering over a teenage girl like he's the judge of her entire life, and a crowd that pretends not to notice. Then, 2 hours later, that same girl standing with a national medal around her neck while the man who stopped her is being led away. You'll hear laughter, you'll hear silence, and you'll hear a kid who almost lost everything say, "No, I belong here." You know what I mean? Act 1. Set the scene. Meet Lila. My name is Lila Morgan. 16 junior at Eastbridge Technical High. Sneakers worn at the toe. Backpack full of solder and sticky notes and a busted laptop with the duct tape holding the hinge together. Mornings start at 5:00 a.m. Kitchen light buzzing, grandma pouring instant coffee, me doing calculus on scrap paper while she irons her scrubs for the hospital shift. My dad taught me how to solder before he died on the job my mom stationed overseas as a medic, and I learned early that if I wanted something to exist, a scholarship, a prototype, a chance, I had to build it myself. I called my project Lifeline, a low-cost prosthetic controlled by brain signals. Not pretty, not polished, but it worked. I'd been scavenging parts from the recycling center, coding off broken tutorials, staying late in the school lab with Mr. Bennett, who kept buying me pizza and patience. I tested the prototype on Mr. Alvarez, the man down the hall who'd lost an arm at the factory, and when his fingers curled for the first time, we both cried quiet and ugly. And I thought maybe, just maybe, this could matter. Winning state got me an invite to the National STEM Expo at the Capitol Convention Center in Richmond, a place that smells like polished stone and catered coffee. I had a cardboard box, 3 hand-drawn poster boards, and a bus ticket my grandma scraped together. Booth 17 was tucked in the back, small off the main aisle next to robot displays that looked like they ate money for breakfast. I set my box down, smoothed my polo, and tried to breathe like birds do when they pretend nothing's wrong. Act 2. The confrontation, the twist. A man in a dark polo and a private security patch walked up like he owned the Echo in the hall. Name tag, M. Hale. He stared at the circuit boards, at the wires poking through my 3D printed casing, and he said, "Get your hands off that equipment before I call the real police." His voice carried sharp and casual, like this kind of thing happened every day and nobody needed to blink except I blinked and the poster ripped where his fingers tugged. "Sir, I am a participant." I said the words small but steady. "Booth 17, confirmation on my phone. Here are my advisor emails." He picked up my poster and flung it to the floor like it was trash, and the room got quieter as if sound had checked its coat and left. "You can show me whatever you want," he said, smirking. "Forged receipt's a fake badge, but this doesn't look like your equipment." He grabbed my arm. My body remembered to flinch before my brain did the math. Age, height, a black girl with thrifted shoes in a hall full of white suits, and suddenly I was guilty until proven human. They escorted me to a service corridor, flickering lights, cement smell, no cameras, and the guard's hands were practical, not gentle. "Empty your bag," he ordered. "If this is evidence, it stays where it is." I thought about Mr. Alvarez, about 18 months of late nights, about the bus ride that gave me pins behind my eyes, about judges who would start the rounds in 20 minutes. "You can't search me without cause," I told him. He smiled like a slow blade. "Call it what you want, kid, but you're not leaving until the police come." I laid my laptop, my handful of donor letters, my notebooks with dates and scratch marks, page after page of the kind of messy proof only a kid with no PR team could have. He swiped through my code like it was a foreign language, held up the wire cutters, and said, "Why does a student need these?" "For building," I answered. "For wiring," he said, or for breaking in, like it was a neat joke. The crowd around my booth turned away as if curiosity could be quarantined. The event coordinator saw it and walked off, pretending the air conditioning was more pressing. I could feel the chance slipping. Judges would move down the line, check off names, and I would be a blank square on a sheet. I thought of my grandma sitting at home, of Mr. Alvarez trying to button his shirt with one hand, of every small kid who ever got told they were out of place. Then something shifted, not because I screamed or because I begged, but because someone pulled out a phone. A student from the next booth recorded everything, the grabbing, the tearing, the smell of paper and fear. That video would become oxygen. Act 3. The reversal, the victory, and the open question. Dr. Samuel Price, head judge. Gray hair, the kind of calm people confuse with gentleness, came down the corridor flanked by other judges and Expo staff. He asked one question in a precise voice: "What is happening here?" Hale went through his script: suspicious equipment, lack of proof, odd behavior. And Dr. Price looked at me like I was the thing he'd been waiting to understand, not the thing to be dismissed. I told him about Lifeline, about Mr. Alvarez, about the letters from the recycling center, about Professor Elena Ruiz, who'd been mentoring me from Caltech by email. Dr. Price pulled out a folder like a magician and laid my documentation on top: receipts, timestamps, iteration logs, everything. The student's video had already found its way up to a judge's tablet, and when they pressed play in the harsh corridor light, the truth was louder than the guard's excuses. Hale was stripped of his badge that afternoon, and I watched him leave with his head down, embarrassed in a way I'd only seen when someone loses a poker hand and all the bluff is gone. But that moment of accountability was only the start. The judges took my booth back into their hands. They taped my poster, tightened my wiring, and ushered me into a special presentation 45 minutes instead of the usual 15 every judge required to show up. I walked back onto the convention floor and set Lifeline on the table like I'd place a child into someone's lap and ask them to notice. Dr. Park, one of the judges, volunteered his arm. "Think about closing your fist," I said, and the prosthetic curled, not flailing, not pre-recorded. It read the intent and moved. The room heard the catch in an old scientist's breath, and then the clap that followed, slow at first, then roaring like a storm finding its voice. They asked technical questions. How did I reduce neural noise? What was my training set? How did it run on a $12 battery? And I answered without wearing the weight of proving my whole life. The scores came back perfect across the board, and when Catherine Wood, the Expo director, read out that I'd won the National Youth STEM Medal, the convention center felt less like a courthouse and more like a place where things actually happen for people. The video of the confrontation went viral that day. Students shared it. Parents called schools, reporters crowded the doors, and the public beam shone on two things at once: my work and the fact that a guard had assumed criminality based on how I looked. Offers came fast: universities, companies, investors, and I used that attention to build something beyond myself. I started Future Hands, a nonprofit, to get equipment and mentors into underfunded schools, and we put Lifeline into production at a price point that wouldn't bankrupt a family. But here's the messy truth: justice doesn't erase the moment you were not believed. The man who stopped me went to court. He paid fines, served time, and lost his license, all necessary, all public. But the question that hung after the verdict wasn't about his punishment, it was about prevention. How many kids don't get a Kevin? The student who pulled out his phone to record them. How many times do opportunities die because the room chooses not to see? This story is not a neat headline. It's a push and a bruise and a beginning. I won, yes, but winning meant turning a wound into a mission so the next kid gets a fair shot before anyone needs a camera to prove it. Call to action. What I want from you, if this touched you, do something small and loud. Tell us in the comments, have you ever been judged before anyone knew your story? Did you look away, or did you step in? If you saw something and didn't act, why not? Share your stories. Argue with me. Ask uncomfortable questions. That's where change starts. If you can donate old laptops, mentor a student, or teach a kid to solder, links are in the description for Future Hands. Hit subscribe if you want more stories about folks who refuse to be written off, and if you see something wrong in public, film it, speak up, be the witness someone needs. Who knows, you might save a life, or at least a dream. So, what do you think would justice have come if no one recorded it? Drop your thoughts below, and let's keep the conversation going because the next Lila out there needs us to pay attention.